This guy only has a high school diploma, but he's always showing off saying, "I work at a hospital." I bet he doesn't even do any significant work at the hospital. Such a pointless dude. At a social mixer where I was the wingman, I constantly felt belittled by a classmate. He never missed an opportunity to assert his superiority. I was fed up with him. However, he didn't know the real me. Coincidentally, there was a woman at the mixer who knew my true identity. I reluctantly revealed it. Upon hearing it, that classmate was flabbergasted. My name is Tim. I am a 28-year-old man, currently working as a doctor in a hospital. I lost my mother to an illness when I was in middle school and was raised in a single-parent household by my dad. The experience of losing my mom to illness inspired me to become a doctor. It was a challenging journey, but I eventually earned my medical license and am now practicing medicine. However, whenever people find out I'm a doctor, they always have something to say, so I just mentioned that I work at a hospital without going into specifics. I haven't been specific about my profession. Due to this, some acquaintances have misunderstood my actual profession. One of them is a guy named Mike, someone I've known since elementary school. I wouldn't call him a friend due to his character. Mike went to the same school for elementary, middle, and high school, graduated from a national university, is a salesman for a major company, and is a man of flamboyant appearance and lifestyle. Even I, as a guy, have to admit he's handsome. His whole appearance screams money. There are rumors that he once spent tens of thousands of dollars in a single night at a club in downtown Las Vegas, so you get the impression he's a real ladies' man. But inside, he is the worst kind of man, a scum, to be honest. Even if he's dating a specific girl, he thinks nothing of making moves on other women. He can't handle his liquor, and whether he has a girlfriend or not, he's always throwing parties. It's so much like that's the status of a man to do something like that, but actually he was brought up in a normal family. I've told him several times that he should stop such behavior, but it doesn't seem to get through to him. You might wonder why I'm still in touch with such a guy. It's because he keeps inviting me to his mixers. It all started about a year ago when I bumped into Mike downtown after not having spoken since high school. He recognized me and approached. We were classmates, so he vaguely remembered my face. "Hey, are you Tim?" When I saw Mike, who was already dressed in full-body luxury brand stuff from then on, I didn't really know who he was at first. "Who might you be?" I found myself asking. "Come on, man, it's me, Mike Williams, your classmate from senior year of high school." Even with that, I couldn't quite place him. That's because he looked completely different from when we were in high school. I don't recall having such a flashy guy in our class back then. It wasn't until he showed me a photo from high school on his phone that I exclaimed, "Oh, it's you." "Actually, I'm surprised you recognized me," I admitted. "You look exactly the same as you did in high school," he chuckled. "So, what are you up to these days?" "Me. I work at a hospital now." "You work at a hospital? You didn't go to college, did you?" "All right, that's the story here." "Well, yeah," I replied. Just as we were about to dive into old times, for some reason, Mike remarked, "So you're basically saying you went straight from high school to being unemployed and now work at a hospital, right?" "No, that's not it," I tried to clarify, but he wasn't listening. He had made up his mind. Working at a hospital is a big deal for a guy who just has a high school diploma. I don't just have a high school diploma. Well, whether you're in medical admin or a janitor, it's all hospital work. I get it, men want to show off. Moreover, for some reason he sympathized with me and said, "I feel bad for you, Tim. I'll invite you to our group hangouts," and that's how I started getting invitations almost every time. To be honest, even if I go to these hangouts, Mike always looks down on me by calling me just a high school grad and makes fun of that fact, laughing about it. Honestly, it feels like I'm just being made a fool of. And his personality is terrible. To be honest, sometimes I don't even know why I go out with him every time, and I end up with a look of emptiness on my face. However, the guy has impeccable taste in restaurants, never misses on the food choice, and even offers to cover the cab fare home. To me, it feels like I'm just going out for a free delicious meal. So, here I am again, called by Mike to make up the numbers, attending yet another gathering. Today's outing was supposed to be a 5-on-5 mixer, and the ladies were all nurses peers in my field, which felt a tad refreshing. Mike seemed quite pumped up, stating, "I'm definitely getting a date tonight. By the way, he's supposedly seeing someone right now, but that doesn't stop him from hosting these meetups." It's human nature to seek out new connections, even if you're already dating someone, he'd say. As usual, his audacity almost feels refreshing. Tonight's venue is a fancy private dining room with a view overlooking New York. Mike had told me to dress sharp, so I wore the only decent jacket I had. Upon seeing me, the first thing out of Mike's mouth was, "Isn't that a bit plain?" "That's all I have," I replied. "Well, you're just a high school grad. It makes sense you'd have less money than me. You'll be perfect as the wingman," he teased. I wanted to tell him off, but I held my tongue. "All right, everyone, cheers." With Mike's call, the gathering officially began. We clinked glasses, and I took a sip of my draft beer. Although it was supposed to be a 5-on-5 mixer, only Mike and I showed up on the guys' side. The other three apparently flaked out. But the fewer men, the more chance for Mike to mingle with the ladies. He seemed to be in high spirits. The women, chosen by Mike's impeccable taste, were all incredibly beautiful. Last-minute no-shows happen now and then, but 3 at once is quite rare. Every time, I wonder just how unpopular Mike is. But then again, I also question my sanity for showing up almost every time he asks. Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. I know we have some notable absences, but let's enjoy what the folks we have. Mike, still in high spirits, exclaimed. He was already on his second glass of wine. "Thank you for having us," the ladies cheerfully responded. Then, one of the women turned to me. "And you are?" "Tim Miller. I work in a hospital." "Nice to meet you," I replied, trying to keep it simple. Suddenly, the chatter among the 5 ladies went like, "What? No way. Perhaps they think I'm plain compared to Mike." Today, Mike's in his usual designer suit, whereas I'm just in regular clothes. Several minutes into the group date, Mike quickly nestled himself among the ladies, just like always. He was going on and on, boasting about his job and the luxury brands he owns. The ladies seemed to be enjoying his stories, laughing and giggling, making Mike even more cheerful. They'd had quite a bit to drink, and it seemed like Mike was pretty tipsy. As for me, I was enjoying my meal, especially the salmon carpaccio, thinking, this is a lively group. There's never a miss when Mike picks the place. Both the drinks and the food are always on point. It felt like it had turned into a 1-on-5 date. Every now and then, the ladies chatting with Mike would glance over at me or whisper something. Although I was engrossed in my meal, I noticed. Seeing this, Mike said to one of the women, Hey, Michelle, aren't I way cooler than him?" wrapping his arm around her and pulling her close. Michelle, whom he referred to, giggled and said, "Oh, stop it." I thought to myself that the atmosphere felt like one of those kind of places. Then, Mike said, "This guy, man, he's been my buddy since elementary school, you know. Despite only having a high school diploma, he always brags about working at a hospital. I bet he's not even doing anything significant there. What a joke," Mike continued. And this guy, back in high school, he didn't stand out in class, almost a nerd, only focusing on studies and part-time jobs. Even with all that studying, he didn't go to college, probably because he grew up in a poor single-parent household. Once that happens, man, life's pretty much over. Mike laughed loudly, while the women looked taken aback. Hearing Mike's words, I sighed. "Mike, you've had too much to drink. Take it easy, man." I placed a glass of water in front of him and got up. "What's the matter? Running away?" Mike cheered. Ignoring him, I headed to the restroom. Mike's nasty attitude when drunk isn't new, and the demeaning comments he makes about me are routine. It doesn't bother me anymore, but it's always a mood killer, so it's best to excuse myself. "Man, he's drunk again today. Can't just leave him like that, I'll just tune out the rest." Every time Mike goes to a mixer, he ends up like that, so I can't just leave him there. Can't really leave him with the ladies either, I thought. As I walked out of the restroom, someone suddenly approached. "You're the director, right?" The one who said that was Mabel, one of the participants of tonight's mixer, who had introduced herself earlier. Her eyes widened at the mention of director, and she continued, "I work as a nurse in the pediatrics department at 7 Stars Hospital. All the girls here tonight are nurses from 7 Stars Hospital." Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but exclaim, "Really? 7 Stars Hospital is where I currently serve as the director." Mike seems to be misunderstanding something, but aside from being a doctor, I also work as the hospital's director. However, once people find out I'm the director, many so-called acquaintances with ulterior motives approach me, so I usually just say I work in the hospital. I'm not lying by saying that. But I never expected that tonight's group of girls would be nurses from our hospital. "You don't interact much with the staff, do you, director?" Seems Mabel picked up on my thoughts and gave a wry smile. "From what I gathered, all these girls are in charge of the inpatient wards. I've been busy with hospital management, conferences, and such, and I seldom visit the inpatient wards. Moreover, I usually leave the hiring interviews for non-doctors to the head nurse, administrative head, or HR head, so I don't often recognize the nurses. With a large hospital like ours, it's understandable, but everyone knows your name at least," Mabel said, her smile a touch mischievous. "It's embarrassing not to know the faces of those working for you. I'm sorry." I apologized and vowed to remember from now on. "Just so you know, we all recognized you, director." "What?" I wasn't sure back then, but when I heard the same name, I thought it might be you. It's quite surprising and amusing to find the director at a mixer. Haha, but why does Mike think you're just a regular hospital employee without a college degree? That's a fair question. Well, he just took my words about working at the hospital at face value, and I explained the whole story. "I see, so Mike doesn't know the real you." "It's not that much of a secret, but yeah, something like that." I laughed, but she seemed deep in thought. "Let's head back," she suggested. I followed her back to our table. "You know, having a college degree really matters. People like Tim who only finished high school, they just are not accepted in society, you know." A drunk Mike was still going on with his story. How can he not run out of things to say about the same topic? I sighed. But I knew there was no handling him in the state. The last time I tried to take a drunk Mike home, he acted like a baby, saying "No way, I ain't going home yet," and started throwing a fit on the floor. I'd rather not remember that fiasco. Best to just leave him be. I felt bad for the girls, but they'd have to put up with him. I ordered a whiskey highball from the waiter and nibbled on some pasta. Then Mabel sat next to me, asking, "Is the pasta good, director?" I nearly spit out my drink and pasta. "Director? Who?" Hearing Mabel's words, Mike turned our way. "This guy, Tim. He's the director of the hospital where we work. Moreover, he earned his medical license in Switzerland. He's quite the accomplished doctor." Then the remaining 4 women came over saying, "I knew it, and I thought so." For some reason, all the women now gathered around me. I heard the director often attends conferences and is on business trips, so it's rare to meet you, but I had a feeling it was you. I was curious ever since I heard the name. One after another started chatting with me. "Well, since we're off duty now, you don't have to call me director, but thank you all for working so hard every day." I managed to reply. "We appreciate it. but a bonus would be nice. Indeed, the ladies all laughed together. The reason I became a doctor was because of the illness that took my mother's life when I was in middle school. I visited her almost every day while she was hospitalized, and seeing her suffer during her treatments made me want to save those in pain. To become a doctor, you need to go to medical school. And tuition is far from cheap. I couldn't afford to fail or repeat a year, so I studied hard. Given the high cost of med school, I even started a part-time job so I wouldn't be a burden to my father. High school felt like it was just studying and working. Just like Mike said, in school, I was always hitting the books and working my side jobs all the time. I was so swamped every day that I don't remember having a typical teenage experience. During that time, I heard that there was ongoing research in Switzerland about the disease that caused my mother's death. There were rumors that a cure might be found soon. It seems that such research is indeed advancing in Switzerland. So, I decided to get my medical degree in Switzerland, not in the US. Thankfully, I was good at German and French, had decent grades, and thought I'd have a better chance at finding a cure there. I discussed it with my father, who gave his blessing, and right after high school, I went to Switzerland on my own. To be honest, I didn't tell any of my classmates. It might be because I was too engrossed in studying and working, and I didn't have close friends, but I also didn't want any fuss about my decision to go to Switzerland. I got into a university and managed to get my medical license there. I also joined a team researching the disease and led a busy life both as a researcher and a doctor. And a few years ago, we finally established a cure for the disease. It's now treatable. But that meant my personal goal was achieved. I achieved my dream sooner than expected. While I was pondering what to do next, I got a call from Dr. Smith, a renowned authority on cardiology and a member of our team. Since my specialization also includes cardiology, I personally referred to Dr. Smith as Master. He proposed, "Tim, how about coming back to the States and becoming the director of one of our affiliate hospitals?" Me, a hospital director? He said, "We have a hospital in our medical group that we'd like to revamp. We're thinking of bringing in a young director to draw attention. Having a young director who's returned from overseas would be a great selling point. Plus, I like your dedication." Do I come across that way? Not everyone would go abroad to study medicine and research a cure. Why not try that passion as a hospital director? He suggested. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I could handle such a significant responsibility, but I decided to accept the offer. And about a year ago, I was entrusted with the 7 Stars Hospital. But as a director, I feel I still have much to learn every day. Catherine, one of the attendees, told me, "Doctor, you always look so serious in the hallways. I thought you were much more intimidating," and laughed. Well, every day I'm anxious if I'm doing a good job as the director, and I can't help but furrow my brow. Don't worry, the current hospital really feels so homely. Exactly. The fact that they encourage not working overtime is great. As a director, at least I can do that. I don't want to work overtime either. I get it, nobody really wants to. The conversation unexpectedly took an exciting turn. While Mike was so shocked he lost his words when he found out that I'm actually the head of a hospital, the women around me, including myself, were all abuzz and excited. And then there was no one left around Mike. Seems like he got upset with the situation and was drinking his booze alone, looking pretty bored. Hearing about my role as the hospital director, it seems his buzz wore right off. He mumbles, "What the hell? You're the one with just a high school diploma." Well, truth be told, I didn't just finish high school. I graduated from a university in Switzerland. I replied with a wry smile. "Anyway, Mike, I'm sorry, especially since you invited me. I'm not sure if it'll make it up to you, but I'll cover the bill tonight." Saying so, I took out my card and handed him $100. "This should cover your cab fare for tonight. You've always been covering for me." As I pushed the $100 into his hand, I said, "Don't worry about it. I might have been a high school grad from a single-parent, low-income family here, but now I'm a director. Mike, with a frustrated look, just left the bar, and the group date came to an end. As it turned out, Mabel and I were headed in the same direction, so we decided to walk together. "Director, you really take care of everyone, don't you?" Mabel remarked. "Oh, do I? If it were anyone else, after being looked down upon like that for supposedly being just a high school grad, you would have left in anger." "That happens all the time. I'm used to it, and I didn't want to leave the ladies in that situation." "That's what makes you caring. You're always putting up with it, right? That makes you a good person in my book," she said with a laugh. "But why did you reveal my identity there?" "Because, seeing you ridiculed like that when I know how capable you really are, I couldn't keep silent. Plus, you're quite popular among the staff, so maybe you should mingle with everyone more." "Wait, I'm popular?" "Yes, you became a director at such a young age, and everyone is eager to hear about your experiences in Switzerland." "I had no idea." "Being a director keeps me busy. Maybe from tomorrow, I'll try to interact more with everyone." "Please do," Mabel laughed. The next day, while I was having lunch in the hospital's cafeteria, 5 of the female nurses from last night's mixer approached me, saying, "Thank you for last night," quite loudly, in fact. This caused a stir among the other staff members. "What? The director went on a mixer? You know, the director was seriously looked down upon yesterday," the chatter began, and by evening, that talk had spread throughout the entire hospital. From that day on, other doctors would approach me saying, "Hey, director, invite me to your next mixer too." From then on, I started actively engaging with other doctors, nurses, and staff. Although the catalyst was the mixer story, I felt I couldn't miss out on this opportunity. "People always thought you, the director, were a pretty stiff type, but turns out you're quite approachable. I heard you've been attending those mixers quite a bit," they said, and I could only respond with a wry smile. From then on, I continued to engage like that, and I felt the overall vibe in the hospital started to improve. Even my mentor, Dr. Smith, who happened to visit the hospital, mentioned, "The hospital has become so much more welcoming. Good thing we left it in your hands, Tim." This made me more determined than ever to excel in my role as director. After that mixer, I began to regularly dine out with Mabel, and our relationship naturally progressed. A few years later, I proposed to Mabel. Of course, she said yes. "I'll do my best to support you, Tim," she assured me. "I've always had many responsibilities, like the hospital, its staff, and all the patients who rely on us, but now I have one more precious thing to protect. I carry that weight every day. I'm not always sure if I'm making the best choices, but to keep everyone happy, I think I'll always give it my all, even if it means relying on others at times."